Hey guys, MD Prepper here. Part 3.5 of our final run here on the Dollar Tree Survival Kit. Talk about cutting tools, or at least the final talk about cutting tools. Sadly, this is probably the weakest part of the entire kit in my opinion. I think everything else we've got is pretty darn good overall for general usefulness. Stuff that I would take out in the field without worrying too much. You know, it's going to get the job done. Can't say I feel as strongly about the cutting tools, just due to limited availability for $1 per blade. So, anyway, we'll talk about that in a second. But one thing about the cutting tools, you know, I always have a pocket knife on me. Always. And I mean always. I always carry something fairly decent that's going to get the job done okay. Let me reach in my pocket here. Spyderco Tenacious. Now, that's not part of the Dollar Tree kit. This is about 35 bucks, but this is going to do just fine for most of your survival 72-hour kit for a cutting tool. So, you know, this is accessories. This is just an example of what you could have if you don't have much. So, these are going to be okay, I think. Not as good as they could be. But, if you know how to use the blades, for 72 hours you're going to be fine. You're not going to need to use a heck of a lot of the blade line for heavy-duty chopping or batoning or anything like that in 72 hours. You're going to be able to pull twigs together, stuff like that. So, let me again say this is probably, in my opinion, the weakest part of the kit. Now, there may be better dollar blades out there at some of the other Dollar Trees. This is all I found. There's only two out of this kit that I think are a must. First, this little knockoff Swiss Army multi-tool here for $1. It's not the best overall, but it's got a lot of options on it, which I think are decent. The fixed blade here, or not the fixed blade, but the knife blade. Small, functional, could be sharper. Obviously, I would probably sharpen this thing up if I had a sharpening stone at home, something like that, before I put it in my kit. It's okay. It's not the sharpest in the world. Smaller general purpose, that type of thing. So there you go. Also on this, you've got a pair of little scissors there, which have all sorts of little small use options. So that's always nice to have. Next up, let's see, what do we have? We have a can opener there, which is great if you got any canned goods with you and accidentally snuck out without a bottle opener, can opener, something like that. So that's okay. Nothing wrong there. And you got your bottle opener here on the other side. Right there. Again, also nice if you have a 6-pack of beer or something with you, or, you know, root beer or any type of thing. It might be nice to have. You got a little ring there, so you can attach that to some cord or something like that if you needed to secure it. On the back side, you have got your ubiquitous Swiss Army style wine bottle opener there, which I don't know how many wine bottles I've run into out in the wild. I can't think of any, really, actually. There might be a few out there, but I don't know. I guess this is designed out in, you know, Swiss Army. You know, I guess there's lots of wine bottles out there in the Swiss world. I don't know. In Europe and all that. Much bigger wine drinkers. So maybe that's useful if you're Swiss or something. I've just never seen why you need this in a survival knife. We also have a Phillips head screwdriver there. A lot of uses. Maybe not ultimately useful in a 72-hour kit, but nice to have, just in case something needs to be tightened up. And of course, you got your little file here, cleaning out your fingernails and all that, if I can ever get this thing out. It's not that hard. My hands are just a little slippery. There we go. So, you got the file, fingernail cleaner and all that. That's okay. That's decent. For $1, I think, as small as this is a must-have for your kit. Whether you use it or not, I'd like to have it as a backup. Now, the next piece that I think is a must, there's a little utility knife here, a little blade that retracts in and out, which is nice because it acts as its own sheath. You don't have to worry about getting cut with it. It's going to retract up nice. Fairly sharp. You've got lots of segments here to break off as they get dull. Doubt you can see that there. Don't know exactly how many segments of blade that is, but when you run it all the way out, that's plenty of blade for 72 hours. Again, if I had to clean a fish with this, could I? Sure I could. I could gut the thing with the blade here, slice it open, retract a little more out to scrape off scales. I'll probably use a blade on this for that rather than this one, but anyway, I can do some basic little tasks with this thing. It's very lightweight. Again, retracts all the way down so you don't have to worry about cutting yourself. It's plastic, fairly sturdy. Has a little lanyard hole here for attaching the things to your belt or your kit or whatever. So that's okay. Now what I also like about it, came with an extra blade. So a little plastic container there. There's your extra blade. You could use this individually or to replace this one, you know, if it happened to break, something like that. So I think the replacement blade should go in this just in case. Again, what if you have two people that need to cut and slice, especially finer stuff? You can give this to somebody else and you can use this one. Or again, just as a replacement. So these two with this, I think are a must. I think these are definitely going to make the kit, unless anybody has any comments. Now the rest of this, I don't know. Big kitchen knife here for $1 that's very, very thin. I say no. I just don't know why I would need a blade this big, other than maybe personal defense, but again, I'd prefer to have something else for personal defense than this. If you're looking for a personal defense option, okay, this one's probably okay. I'd probably also look for a very large, heavy stick, something like that, give you some range on somebody, but this isn't bad. It's not horribly dull or anything. It's reasonably sharp for $1. But other than personal defense uses, again, if somebody pulled this out and pointed at me, I'd probably want to go away. If we want to talk about personal defense, this is probably the best option they had there, you know, for a blade anyway. But for other than that, I just don't think you're going to use this too much in a 72-hour kit. So let me know your thoughts on that, but this might be worth keeping along. Next, we got the bread knife. Now, not really expecting to be baking any bread out there, even though I do have a loaf pan. This could be used for pruning, sawing, that type of stuff, to get some limbs and twigs, that branches, that type of stuff. It's going to be okay. Again, it's also fairly thin, but a lot of your folding saws and all that are as well. So I think this would do a fairly decent job of sawing off some branches and stuff like that if you needed them for firewood or for whatever you need them for. Again, not absolutely necessary in a 72-hour kit. I think you should probably be able to gather up enough twigs and just break things off by hand, grabbing them and twisting them, snapping them off, and collecting things from the forest floor or wherever. But of the alternative optional blades, I'd say this probably has the most function, I suppose. You know, this, maybe not so much. This for defense. This isn't much of a defensive blade. But for $1, maybe this one. You say there's no sheath? Well, we can make one. The cardboard that these things came with, you could use this, and I could if I want to make a cheap little sheath with the cardboard, you know, rolled over and taped down with some duct tape or some electrical tape, just whatever we've got. So I could secure that fairly safely in our pack without too much worry about punching a hole. Now these little steak knives, little kitchen steak knives here, I think they're junk. Awfully thin. The tang only comes down to there. Serrations on the front part from about there to there, but that's not going to be as good for sawing, that type of stuff, is this. You're going to get bigger, longer strokes with this, and you're going to get the inner part of the blade here as you're sawing back and forth. This one, not so much. You're going to have to use the tip, so it's not going to be as efficient. So, two of these for $1. I don't know if I will carry either of these. I don't really think they're worth it, really. If you guys say otherwise, I may throw one in there and make a makeshift sheath on that. So, I don't think it's going to do the job. Now, I don't know what the tang is on these two. Let me go ahead and say that. I should have said that earlier. I'm not sure. My magnet tracks all the way to the back, but the problem is you got these little side inserts here for grip or, you know, just style or something like that. Now, those look like aluminum to me, which shouldn't attract a magnet, but they could just be more of the cheap, thin steel that was used in the blade. I don't know. And I'm not about to dissect one of these right now. I guess I could, if any of you know if this is a longer tang. If this thing's bigger tang out to here, it's a much better blade. Both of them with magnet, they track out to here with my magnet. But again, that could just be this little insert. It's just hard to say. So, like I said before, this and this together, right here, that's what we're taking for sure. Fairly small on our cutting tools. I don't wish they sold Moras or Wahoo Killer fillet knives at Dollar Tree. That'd be a much better option. But let me know what your thoughts are about these. Again, if we're going personal defense, maybe this one. Again, it looks scary. This one, probably a little more utilitarian. Again, both kind of large. Don't know if you absolutely have either for 72 hours, like I said. And these, honestly, they could do a fairly decent job, but I think both of these would do the job better than one or two of these. Excuse me. But anyway, let me know your thoughts on the cutting tools. Again, here's our final thoughts in my mind right there at the bottom. Again, this is our weakest part of the kit, but again, how much cutting do you need to do that's heavy duty in 72 hours? Probably not all that much. MD Prepper, out.